High school student Wakana Gojou is interested in making Hina dolls, but she has trouble making friends or even talking. But after the school's most popular girl, Marin Kitagawa, discovers a secret of her own, she joins Marin to make Marin's dream come true. The story begins with Wakana Gojou, who specializes in creating Hina dolls, a type of traditional Japanese doll. He has a deep and passionate love for this craft, pouring his heart and soul into every creation. However, despite his skill and dedication, Gojou struggles with self-doubt. Sitting in class, Gojou admits that he doesn't have any friends in high school either. The main reason for this is Hina's passion for dolls, which is not a common interest among her classmates. When she talks about her hobby of making dolls, she fears that others won't want to be her friend like the childhood friend she left because of it. When Marin hit his head on his desk and flew backwards, he was suddenly excited. Gojou is shocked by the sudden impact, and Marin's friends quickly approach to apologize for accidentally pushing him. The attention of the whole class is focused on him. Marin stood up, patted his head, and said to Gojou, who was just staring at him, surprised at how cute he was, "I'm sorry." Then he noticed his hand and touched it, asking, "What kind of mark is that? It's not a cut, right?" Furious, Gojou pulls his hand away and mutters, "It's nothing." Marin smiles and says, "Right, that's good," before walking away. Gojou hides the ink stain on his arm, a residue from working on the Hina doll earlier. As she leaves, he looks back at her and blushes, thinking about how, unlike her, Marin is a super fun and popular girl with lots of friends. Just then, one of Marin's friends, Noah, tells the story of the night before. She tells her friends about the hot guy Marin comes to confess to, but then mocks her anime key and calls him lame. This infuriated Marin, who retorted, "You're the lame one here," before walking away. Then his friend mocked him, saying, "If the guy was hot, you should have given him a chance." Marin replies, "I wonder how hot it is." Overhearing their conversation, Gojou is surprised when Marin adds, "I don't like guys who make fun of things I like." Hearing this, Gojou was surprised, even though he lives in a world very different from hers. They have something in common. After school, Gojou's classmates ask him to clean up. Willingly agrees, and they set him a task. He starts cleaning when he suddenly sees Marin walking into the classroom. He starts arranging the seats because today is his cleaning duty. "Where are the other cleaners?" he asked. "They went home. They had work to do," Gojou replies, sensing something. Marin asked, "Gojou-kun, are they using you?" He hesitates before admitting, "I guess they think I'm trustworthy." Marin frowns and replies, "They're just using you. You shouldn't agree to things you don't want to do." He advises her to speak for herself. That night, while betting, Gojou accidentally cuts his finger. His grandfather notices and asks what happened. "I cut my finger," Gojou replies. As his grandfather goes to get a bandage, Gojou remembers Marin's advice during the cleaning and thinks, "He saw me. I always suppressed my emotions." Then he remembers the harsh words of his childhood friend, "I hate you." When he goes back to sewing, his grandfather comes back with bandages. Gojou notices that the sewing machine is not working properly and tells his grandfather about it. Before going to sleep, he looks at his bandaged fingers and thinks about the need to buy a new machine soon. Gojou decides to use the existing sewing machine in his school's sewing room. Just as Gojou is about to begin his work, Kitagawa unexpectedly appears. However, instead of teasing or belittling her, she expresses genuine admiration for her sewing skills. This unexpected help from Kitagawa surprised Gojou. Currently, Kitagawa is also presenting a cosplay outfit that he painstakingly created, inspired by a video game character. Unfortunately, Gojou inadvertently makes a critical comment about Kitagawa's cosplay outfit, much to his dismay. Despite his good intentions, his careless words cause grief and pain. This turn of events is a reminder that careless words, even if well-intentioned, can have deep and negative effects on others, highlighting the complexity of human relationships and the importance of thoughtful communication. While Kitagawa encourages and supports Gojou's passion for Hina dolls, Gojou's unwitting criticism of her own cosplay dress shows her vulnerability and understanding and empathy with others, emphasizes the ability to show. This is a lesson for Gojou to be mindful of the impact his words can have on others, especially when it comes to their creative expressions and actions. However, despite the inadvertent criticism and the brief tension that ensued, Kitagawa takes a bold step forward. He asks Gojou if he would be willing to create a similar outfit for him, and tells him how deeply Shizuku's character means to him. Kitagawa has confidence in Gojou's skills and his ability to bring his cosplay vision to life. Although Gojou has never made clothes for real people before, he is impressed by Kitagawa's request and how important it is to him, recognizing an opportunity to step out of his comfort zone and make a positive impact on Kitagawa's life. He agrees to help her and assures her that he will do his best to do so. Gojou's decision to solve this unfamiliar problem brings joy and gratitude to Kitagawa. She is grateful for their willingness to support her and is happy that with Gojou's help, her cosplay dream will become a reality. This moment demonstrates the power of mutual understanding, empathy, and willingness to take risks. Despite Gojou's lack of experience in making clothes for people, her genuine desire to help Kitagawa resonates with him, creating a bond of trust and cooperation. It also emphasizes the transformative nature of stepping outside one's comfort zone, as Gojou embraces the opportunity to expand one's skills and contribute to someone else's happiness. Kitagawa Gojou talks about her desire to cosplay as Shizuku, the female character in the video game Slippery Girls 2, which is classified as an erotic game. This revelation initially shocks Gojou and doesn't know how to respond. However, Kitagawa goes on to explain that her gender should not dictate her ability to enjoy activities and hobbies. He asserts that anyone can value and pursue what they enjoy, regardless of society's demands or norms. Eventually, Gojou begins to agree with Kitagawa's point of view. After their conversation, Kitagawa presents Gojou with an instruction booklet on how to make cosplay costumes. The next day, someone is standing at Gojou's door. Opening it, he is surprised to see Marin. He said, "Why are you here?" he asks. She tells him, "I couldn't wait until Monday, so I looked for your doll shop and I came." He asked her, "Can I come in?" Gojou doesn't know what to say. She brings him cheesecakes, saying, "These are delicious." He walked in, surprising her even more. He walks towards her room and says, "This is your room, right?" When he opens it, he laughs, saying, "You haven't put your futon down." Then she looked at her brushes and asked, "So you use them to paint your dolls?" At that moment, his heart began to pound because the only person in his room was his grandfather. And now this girl. When he calmed down, he heard a voice in front of him. "Do you hear me, Gojou?" He sees Marin, who asked. He said, "What is this?" he asked. He said, "Do you want to go faster?" Says, excited. He hesitantly asked, "What exactly?" He replies, "Take my measurements." "Yes." He says, "Can someone else do this part?" He asks, "Why? Don't you want to do it anymore?" Hesitantly. She tells him, "Because I read in the book yesterday that you have to be in your underwear for the measurements." He says, "So that's what you mean," and starts unbuttoning his shirt. She then takes off her pants and says, "Tada, I'm completely in a bathing suit." She says, "I thought you guys would blush, so I put on a bathing suit." Still, Gojou is nervous about Marin's appearance and gets angry when she touches him. Then he says, "I will start measuring. Be patient with me. It would be easier for you if I close my eyes," he says. He measures himself and pushes himself to move forward. He places the meter on her head, but that's when she opens her eyes, and he jumps back in fear. He stands up and says, "Turn around for a shoulder measurement." Seeing his back, he loses himself, finally working up some courage to measure up. He asks her if she feels uncomfortable in just her swimsuit. He says he's not and only cares about the costume. At that moment, he heard a voice. Gojou hit himself. He said, "What are you doing?" He replies, "Nothing." He encourages himself, "I shouldn't have such impure thoughts. He relies on me." Then he starts taking measurements. So he thinks, "I just have to concentrate." Afterwards, Marin asks her to measure her feet to buy shoes for her cosplay. He tells her, "I'll go and get a chair first." Before he leaves, she sits on his futon and says, "This might work." Gojou says, No, get up. This place is dirty." But Marin says, "Everything is fine." Gojou insisted, "No, I'll bring a chair." "Let's go to scale," says Marin. Then she stands up and puts her feet on his lap. Gojou was completely nervous. Then he says, "Do it, Gojou." After finally measuring her legs, he felt relieved. But when she said, "It's time to measure her breasts," she broke into a cold sweat again. He turned around and asked, "Are you asking me to measure them?" He replies, "Who else does that?" Looking at his chest, he begins to breathe heavily. "I can't." He approaches her and says, "Hurry up, my hands are killing me." He says, "Excuse me," and walks over to measure them. He tries to stay calm calm and finally takes the measure. After that, he feels death. He then asks her for the stitch size. And I can't do it. Please do this part yourself, says Marin Kitagawa, referring to making a perfect bag like Suzuka-tan. He patted her. Gojo-kun, I'm kidding. Oh, I'll measure myself. Give me the ruler. As he takes measurements, Gojo feels uncomfortable. He says, it's 20 centimeters, and Gojo's mind goes blank, even though it's just a number. Then he says, now the last thing to measure is the seam. Gojo thinks, I measure without looking at his face. I want to be like Marin, who never loses his head. But when he measured and then looked at her, she was completely red. He says, you are bright red. Realizing this, he acts strangely. She thinks the room is hot and goes to turn on the air conditioner. Finally, they are done with measurements. As Marin puts on her clothes, Gojo asks, do you have any Slippery Girls references so I can get the details of the clothes? Marin takes out the Slender Girls DVD and hands it to her, saying, you might find it helpful. Just then, she sees his pants and blushes at his appearance again. At night, when Grandpa returns home from the market, he is shocked to find Gojo watching an 18+ series. Gojo noticed that his grandfather was there and asked, is dinner ready? He asked. Grandpa thinks, yes, and says, who would seriously watch a series like this? Also, does it record? He thinks. Now we see Marin, who is very pleased with her Suzuka-tan outfit. Gojo says, the suit suits you perfectly, let's apply the wig. Marin says, when I cosplay, I start to feel like a hero. He starts acting like Suzuka-tan, calling him master. Gojo is completely red too. When he says, please look at me, Gojo wakes up. It was just his dream. Then he looks inside his pants, confused, and looks at the doll. He says as he walks towards his classroom. Marin appears as he overhears the girls talking about how cute and famous he is as a beautiful, approaches him and starts to talk to him, but he blushes remembering the dream he had. Then his friend Gibber comes, and let me join his other friends. He thinks he has surrounded me, but they were all acting so cute. One of her friends asked why she was so upset. Marin put her hand on him and stared at his face. Then she said it didn't bother her at all, but it was like a shock to touch her, and it turns red. Her friends think Gojo Marin treats me like that at school. But then she overhears the jabber talking about whether Marin is going out with this Gojo guy or not. She could do better after school. Gibber to speak again. He quickly disappointment away. Now she goes out to find him, but he hides. She keeps calling him. He looks for her in every room, and even calls her name out loud. But he can't find her, and now she feels bad. A Marine back home catches her and asks, will you come shopping with me? Looking at the students as they pass by, this Gojo refuses to go with her and runs away. Min wonders why she is doing this. She knows she is hiding from him and regrets it. But Main finds him and confronts him. Why are you running away from me, Gojo? He replies, you shouldn't be with me when there are others around. He says, what are you saying? We are already friends, but people we go out they think we're going. He answers, then why? T.S. and she blushes. She says, I'm kidding. Take her hand, and we take her by the hand. Jokin, let's go now. They arrive at the store in front of the cosplay department. She gives her a paper, Suzuka's body design and how to dress her. Says he needs things, and he is surprised by Gojo drews all this. He then shows him the fabric they can buy, but Gojo chooses another fabric, saying that Suzu is at Kaiten Academy. High class, so the costume must be made of good quality fabric. But this fabric is twice as expensive as other materials, so my sailor mom takes money, saying she went to the bank. Use it. I saved all this for cosplay. I work hard. Waste it if you don't use it. So Gojo accepts it. After they both shop at the store, they start shopping for a cosplay costume and other things needed for cosplay. Marine now enters there. Let's swallow the tail, says. Gojo is surprised to see that it's a wig shop, and he says, wow, they have so many varieties for every color. And the sailor tells him, I found the black wig we want. Gojo says Katen Suzu has a purple outfit. Says that's why her hair can be like that. Purple color, but she realizes he has no idea about her details. They choose the color to match her dress. Marin says, if I came here by myself, I would have got wrong things. Thanks for coming with me, Gojo H. He then goes to the counter. He pays, then he goes out. Then it's time to shop for house and socks inside the shop. Gojou says he feels uncomfortable because there are only ladies around this underwear shop. He says Marine-san is in a hurry, shuts her up, and he teases her. Do you prefer something more interesting? Old lady cries, please stop teasing me. Later, they walk home. After eating something, they talk about the subtle moments of the series that make women throw up. Adults are surprised to see them. As they both walk home, Marin says, I'm wondering where I should cosplay after I'm done with this. Gojou asks if there are specific places. She replies like cosplay events and rented studios. Also you can upload your pictures to social networks. It will show him pictures of cosplayers, who uploads her pictures. She talks about a mysterious cosplayer named Juju who is very popular, but never goes to events, then shows her another cosplay contest and gets excited, saying she's cute. As they walk, she looks beautiful, but at that moment she stopped. And you didn't say a word, you think she's beautiful? Gojou replies, no, she's not. Sorry, this is boring. But when I was a child, the first time I was at my grandpa's, when I saw the Hina doll, I couldn't take my eyes off it. I realized that the word beautiful is for something like that, so I can't say it's beautiful or beautiful until I feel it from my heart. Marin Gojou, he is absolutely a guy with a face. He says, I won't deny them. They look beautiful. I have a hard time saying it. He just goes ahead. I think it's very good if you decide that way. He saw a food van and drooled at the thought of eating after buying meat broths, and he took a bite and was happy with the taste. As they were about to part ways, her help, she looks at him silently. He then tells her that these meat broths are delicious. Take a bite. She blushes because she's so full. She takes a bite and cleans her lips. Then she goes all pig out. Said, do you think? And Gojou is inside. Cold sweat now. He looks at his phone and says it's late and runs away, saying I'll miss the train, see you. And after Marin leaves, Gojou shakes him back. Gojou remembers. The cosplay event is in 2 weeks. On the train ride home, Gojou worries about finishing the costume in time. When he comes home, his grandfather welcomes him warmly. Gojou tells him, I went shopping with a friend. Like he said, what did you buy? A pair of women's stockings falls out of the bag. Terrified, Gojou's grandfather stumbles and injures himself. Later we see Gojou sitting outside the hospital room. His cousin comes and says that the doctor is treating his grandfather after an accident. At that moment, the grandfather comes out thanking the doctor. Gojou helps him sit down. Cousin Mui says, Grandpa needs to rest. He'll stay with me for a while. He then tells Gojou to spend the night at his house. My grandfather says, I hope I won't be a burden. They then head towards Mui's house. The next day at school, Gojou tells Minga about the incident with his grandfather. Marin overhears and says, let me know if you need help. Gojou thanks him and says he'll be fine. He offers to exchange phone numbers to keep in touch in case anything happens, and Gojou agrees. On the way back to class, Gojou thinks, I couldn't work on the dress. I have to start today. Marin snapped her out of her thoughts and called out to her. As they walk, he looks at the bulletin board and says, midterms start next week. Hearing this, only one thought comes to her mind. I have to find time to sew her clothes. Marin, are you okay? He asks, and he answers, yes. Later that evening at home, Gojou receives a call about a tour of Hina's doll workshop for a friend visiting from France. At first, he refuses to go on a tour on Saturday, but since his friend is only available that day, he reluctantly agrees. After hanging up, it feels like everything is packed. He begins to plan how to design a costume for Marin, while also preparing for a tour of the workshop. Although he is injured, he is working on the costume at night. He puts on a bandage and continues to work. The next day, after the exams, Marin looks at Gojou, who is still sitting. Before she gets close to him, her friend arrives and Gojou quickly leaves. That night, Marin stands outside Gojou's house and texts him, but gets no response. When he looks out the window, it's dark inside. He thinks he may have visited his grandfather at his cousin's house and goes back home. Meanwhile, Gojou's house is in chaos. He didn't take out the garbage. He opens his eyes. He feels that he has a headache from working hard, and he hasn't slept enough. He then looks at the suit pieces scattered around. In his opinion, the dress is not finished at all, and if it is not done in time, Marin will be upset. Gojou looked at his brushes and said, I still can't use them properly. What will I do if I never paint doll faces? He thinks. Dejected, she asked her grandfather, isn't it so hard to make a doll's face? She remembers asking and starts to cry. His grandfather laughed. Yes, it was difficult for me at first. He then opened the album and showed it to Gojou, saying, I'm grateful that I chose this job when I see the smiles on our customers. You keep going because even when it's hard, hard. You want to make someone happy. Gojou then recalls the moments he spent with Marin and how excited he was about the cosplay event. Out of depression, he wipes away his tears and continues to work through the night. In the morning, he texts Marin that he has finished the suit. Marin later visits her and is impressed by the outfit. She then tells Gojou, "I wasn't planning on attending today's cosplay event." Gojou asked, "Huh? Aren't you?" He replies, "There are other cosplay events, so I wanted to wait until you were done." Hearing this, Gojou sits down and says, "Thank God, I was very worried that I wouldn't be able to finish today's event on time." But then when she looks at Marin, she starts crying and says, "I didn't know you were working overtime for me. I'm sorry. I thought you were just busy with exams and taking care of my grandfather." To lighten the mood, she suggests, "Why don't you try on the outfit now? If it needs fitting or adjustments, I can do them." Marin says, "But you're tired." He replies, "I will be happy if you try it now." Marin agrees, wiping away her tears. He says, "Okay, I'll wear it like crazy. Thanks, Gojo-kun." While she cleans her nose, Gojou combs her hair and makes a bun. She tells him how to paint her like Shizuku Tan. For eye makeup, she watches a video tutorial on how to apply eyelashes and thinks they might need false eyelashes. She says, "I have several eyelash styles that we can choose from." Marin asked, "Is this your girlfriend?" She laughs and replies, "No, we use eyelashes for henna dolls." He shows her a picture of a henna doll with eyelashes and she says, "She looks cute," comments. Gojou explains, "We even use different makeup for different Hina dolls. All these were made by my grandfather. I hope I can make faces like her one day." Marin assures him, "You will be Gojou." He smiles and thanks him. Marin says, "It's the first time I've seen you smile like that." Then Gojou noticed, "Your eyebrows don't look like Shizuku Tan's." After a moment's thought, he suggests, "Cut them out." He is amazed at her bravery, but goes along with it. After she finishes her makeup, she changes Shizuku Tan's dress and puts on a wig. Gojou waits outside as he changes. When she's ready, she walks into the room and is shocked by its transformation. She excitedly asked, "Gojo-kun, do I really look like Shizuku Tan?" Gojou replies, "Yes, very similar to Shizuku Tan." Marin beams with happiness and exclaims, "You are a wonderful Gojou." "And it's all because of you," Marin said with a bright smile. Gojou then asked, "How does it fit?" She replied, "It fits, but it's a bit hard to raise my arms. These bags fit perfectly though, and the skirt is the perfect length." "Too well done, Gojo-kun," Marin added playfully. Gojou smiled, a little flustered, and said, "I'm flattered, but there's still a long way to go." Marin beamed with excitement. "I'm getting so excited. This is perfect. Calm down." "Marin," Gojou said, amused by her enthusiasm. "I want to take some pictures," Marin suddenly announced, grabbing her phone. Now Gojou was snapping pictures of her. As Marin reviewed one of the photos, Gojou said, "You should pose more like Shizuku Tan. Okay, let's take a picture here, and I'll pose like her," she replied eagerly. She struck a pose, but then burst into laughter, too excited and happy to keep a straight face. After a moment, she tried again. More seriously this time, Gojou clicked the camera and said, "This one really looks like Shizuku." He kept taking pictures, and each pose became more like Shizuku Tan's. When they were finally done, Marin glanced at the pictures and smiled. "I'm uploading these online. They look so cute." She then turned to Gojou and exclaimed, "Let's go to tomorrow's cosplay event." Gojou blinked, surprised. "What?" The next day, they arrived at the cosplay event. Marin's eyes sparkled with excitement as she saw a sea of cosplayers around her. She looked at each one, saying, "They all look amazing, and right now, I'm making my cosplay debut. I'm so happy." But when she glanced at Gojou, she noticed he was sweating nervously. "I shouldn't be here. There are way too many girls around," he muttered. "Everyone is staring at us." Marin laughed and said teasingly, "I think they're staring because of my amazing outfit." Gojou shook his head. "No, it's because I don't belong here." "Or maybe," Marin teased with a grin, "it's because I've got the best bag here." They continued walking around, and Marin noted, "Everything is so chill here." Suddenly, she pointed to a nearby cosplayer. "Look, she's so cute." Just then, a photographer appeared and asked, "Can I take some pictures? You're cosplaying Shizuku Tan, right?" Marin's face lit up. "Yes," she replied, her excitement obvious. Gojou stepped to the side to watch as Marin struck several Shizuku Tan poses for the photographer. He clicked away, capturing each one. Afterward, Marin eagerly checked the photos, her face glowing with happiness, and she says, "That's super cute." Then, she adds, "Let's take a selfie together," as the photographer leaves, another one arrives. The new photographer asks her to strike a pose. Gojou thinks to himself that she looks like Shizuku-tan as she poses. He then glances around at the other cosplayers and thinks they're cosplaying their favorite characters. That's why they're having so much fun and are able to express themselves so freely. He looks back at Marin, noticing how happy she seems. He recalls the time she asked him to make a cosplay outfit for her and how he fulfilled his promise. But then, a bittersweet realization hits him. Hanging out with Marin like this will end today. He reflects on how he's never had any real friends before, and Marin was the first person to become one. Spending time with her has been incredibly fun for him. Just then, Marin looks around, searching for Gojou. When she spots him, she feels relieved. Gojou, meanwhile, can't take his eyes off her. After finishing the photo session, she runs towards him and stops right in front of him, saying, "I thought you disappeared on me, and I panicked." She then adds, "My clothes are about to come off." Confused, Gojou asks, "Say what now?" She explains, "Last night, I was looking at the photos you took of me, and I realized that Shizuku-tan's bust should have been bigger. So, I wore a new bra today, and now my chest is literally about to burst." Gojou, surprised, responds, "I made the outfit to fit you perfectly, so there wasn't any room for a new bra." Marin complains, "This outfit is just too hot. I'm going to die." Gojou then realizes it's because he used thicker fabric when making her costume. They head inside so she can cool off. Marin sips a cold drink and sighs with relief. "Now I feel a bit better." Gojou hands her a cool patch, which she places on her forehead. "This feels so good," she exclaims, as she also wipes the sweat from her underarms. Seeing her struggle with the heat, Gojou tries to think of a way to help. Realizing they need to loosen her clothes to let some air in, she asks, "Can you unzip me?" Gojou freaks out and says, "I can't," but he notices how uncomfortable she is and, summoning all his courage, carefully unzips her outfit. She sighs in relief. That feels so much better, while Gojou turns bright red. Then, she asks him to wipe her back. Gojou, trying hard to stay composed, begins wiping her back. She makes some noises of relief, which makes Gojou flustered, and he tells her, "Keep your voice down." She then asks for a towel to clean underneath her skirt, complaining that it's all stuffy inside. After cleaning and making a few adjustments to reinforce her clothing, she tells him, "Let's head back out." Before they go home, they step outside again and call for a photographer. Marin apologizes for running off earlier and says, "You can take pictures now." She strikes a pose, but during the shoot, a strong gust of wind lifts up her skirt, revealing markings on her thighs. Both Gojou and the photographer turn red, and the photographer accidentally clicks the camera. She quickly says, "I'll delete those immediately," but Marin isn't even fazed. Her only concern is that she couldn't get the pose right. After the event, they take the train home together. Marin thanks Gojou, saying, "It's all because of you that I was able to go to the event." Gojou replies, "It was a great experience for me too, and I had so much fun." He starts feeling a little sad, thinking this might be the last time they hang out together. But just then, Marin asks, "So, which cosplay are we going to do next? There are so many more I want to try." Gojou brightens up at the thought, and Marin notices, teasing him, "You seem super happy? What's up?" Blushing, Gojou says, "I'm just looking forward to working with you again." Marin stares at him for a moment, then laughs. "Yeah, for sure." She excitedly shows him the next cosplay she wants to do, but notices that Gojou looks really drowsy. She suggests, "Why don't you take a nap?" As Gojou listens to her talking about the event, his sleepy eyes grow heavier. He glances at her, recalling how stunning she looked in her Shizuku-tan cosplay. Half asleep, he murmurs, "You looked really beautiful today." Marin, stunned, remembers that Gojou only uses the word beautiful for things he finds truly special. Realizing this, she blushes deeply, her heart racing. Is this love? It will be continued, so don't forget to like and subscribe.